Hello, everybody. Welcome to Accelerated Medical Practices monthly partner webinar. I'm very, very excited about this month. Okay, I know I say that every month, but I'm actually really excited about this month because we have my friend and fellow speaker, Hayden Goldman, who's here from Olympia Pharmacy, and he's going to talk about a topic that people keep asking us about. All the details about GLP1s because it's something that came in, it helped us build our clinics, and then things started coming crashing down. And I was hearing so many providers talk about issues and worries and misinformation. I was like, well, let's just go to the source. And then I asked Hayden if he'd be willing to come on, and he said yes. So we are excited to be here today for those of you that are here live and those of you that are watching on the recording. I want to start by saying that today is June 19th, 2025. Anything that is said on this webinar could change as of tomorrow, June 20th. So if you're watching the recording and something, a couple of months from now when something has changed, that's just because that's the way that life goes in pharmacies. But without further ado, let me introduce Hayden Goldman, who is from Olympia Pharmacy. He is the the manager of commercial sales, and he's coming to us from Orlando, Florida. How you doing, Hayden?
I'm doing mighty fine. Thank you for having me. Definitely
Awesome.
appreciate it. Pleasure to speak to y'all. And, it's questions that we get every day here at Olympia, right? No one quite knows where to even find resources, things of that nature. So I can speak a little bit to that. I would say your source of truth is no doubt going to be the FDA's website. I don't think I put anything in there about it, but I can definitely reference it as we're going through some of these topics as semaglutide, tirzepatide, and where we're at today and potentially what is to come.
Okay. Well, we're going to start off by just a really quick presentation that you put together. I'm going to do the little mechanics over here
Yep.
and I'm going to share it. And then at the end, I've got some questions that I've been taking from some of the guests, and I will ask those to you. Let me go ahead and share my screen and start the presentation and let it roll.
There it is. All right. So, yep. So GLP-1 is just kind of what we're covering today. What has changed, as we all know, it has been the GLP-1s, as we know it, have been taken off the national drug shortage list, impacting pretty much supply chain across the board in various ways. And then we'll hit on what's coming. We'll touch on Olympia Pharmacy a little bit, who we are, what, pharmacies roll up under that umbrella. So, excited to get into it.
Okay.
So, Olympia Pharmacy, we are both a 503B and a 503A. Our 503B being Olympia Pharmaceuticals, 503A being Olympia Pharmacy. We are licensed in 48 of the 50 states. Sorry, California, and sorry, Mississippi. Hopefully, we'll gain those licenses by the end of the year. We do have a couple things in play right now. I think Mississippi might even come a little bit earlier than California. We're just at California's mercy at this point, just waiting on them to come out and inspect us. Some of the product lines that we have to offer, as you might know, absolutely some weight management, right? Topic of discussion today, but sexual health, sterile and non-sterile products, age management solutions, as in NADs, some Moreland. We'll mention some of those in this presentation. And then out of our 503A, we'll have some of our non-sterile dermatology lines, BHRT, so on and so forth. As a 503B, we are following the CGMP practices. So that's current good manufacturing practices that 503Bs must follow per FDA guidelines. Big item that we have here is having a clinical pharmacy team. So we have a team of 6 to 7 pharmacists that are just manning the phones, ready to answer any questions that our clients might have, whether you're an MD, nurse practitioner, an RN at an office, just needing a quick reference. You can definitely give our clinical pharmacy team a call, and they're more than happy to assist.
All right.
Why Olympia? So as I'd mentioned, current good manufacturing practices. So with that comes third-party testing. So all of our sterile products produced out of our 503B are sent out for third-party testing as a requirement by the FDA. We are not allowed to release any of those products until we get full sterility testing back on each one of those. As you know, Beyond You states, this is also how we establish Beyond You states with stability testing, right? Huge benefit of Olympia or being an Olympia customer is fast turnaround. Anytime orders are placed prior to 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Tuesday through Thursday, you will have it by the very next business day. And obviously, per this presentation, we are no ifs, ands, or buts, always addressing national drug shortages. That's where, I think 503Bs really are the most valuable in the world of pharmacy and medicine. So legit script certification, this is big, and this has come about over the last, I would say, couple years, where certain providers, if they want to market or they're wanting to do telemedicine, legit script certification is a requirement, and those practices are also required to work with pharmacies that are legit script certified. So we were able to obtain that. As I'd mentioned, we do have that in-house clinical pharmacy team. They're phenomenal. Great customer support team with customer service, as well as, even my team of reps. They are able to jump in, troubleshoot with any questions, concerns, or issues brought their way. One team, God bless them. I love them. They save me time and time again, is our regulatory and compliance team. It's something that we've really, I would say, put on the forefront when it comes to operations here at Olympia, is really fortifying our regulatory and compliance. We take it very seriously. That team's always on the road too, really putting our name out there, and really solidifying Olympia Pharmacy as the gold standard. And, not only quality of product, but our, I would say the lengths that we go to uphold any regulatory or compliance, I would say requirements. Yeah. So alternative product offerings. This is huge. As you see, semaglutide and tirzepatide are not on here. So these are all going to be phenomenal products to start offering, products that we are seeing really starting to gain some traction. NAD plus, God bless. I think over the past week, every single call I've had, regardless of how large a practice might be or as small as a practice might be, NAD plus is at the top of their list. This is a peptide, great product, great alternative. I would definitely encourage everybody to look more into that. We are currently offering a product. It is 500 mgs. We are sunsetting that. It's lyophilized, rolling out a product that is actually double in size. We're going to be offering a 1 gram vial or 1,000 mgs. We're really excited for that. Weight loss options. Liraglutide. Liraglutide is a GLP-1. It is seen on the National Drug Shortage List, and this is not one that is actually protected by a patent. So the idea behind it is that we don't necessarily foresee it leaving the National Drug Shortage List anytime, because there's really no incentive to that manufacturer, right? It is available as a generic, therefore, why push to get it removed from the drug shortage if just anybody and everybody can already produce it and distribute it? Lipotropics, these are big. They were really big prior to GLP-1s. They were really our main, I would say, main core group of weight loss products that we were offering prior to GLP-1s. So we're seeing kind of a resurgence in that. We are doing a couple bundles, which include lipotropics, like I think it's MIC and Amino Blend. That's a great product as well. ED injections, Trimix, phenomenal offering there as well. We actually have an entire patient team. That's all they sell, and they do a fantastic job at it. This is a great way to address any telemedicine issues when it comes to patient retention. That's always a big topic of discussion when we get on calls. Great way to retain patients is going to be Trimix. With Olympia, we have 27 different formulas, so you can start at the lowest strength in a bimix and make your way all the way to a super trimix, and really you'll have a patient for life. We've had patients coming back for 20 plus years for trimix specifically. So Those are a few products that I really think are going to do very well post GLP-1 shortage being over. So we can go to the next beautiful. So we're going to get into it now. So what has changed with the world of GLP-1s? As we know, tirzepatide, that shortage was deemed as being resolved by the FDA on 10/2. Now, Olympia Pharmacy, what we did, we were actually the only ones who moved forward with a lawsuit. We funded the lawsuit with the backing of OFA against Eli, well, not against Eli Lilly, but against the FDA. Eli Lilly did end up throwing their hat in the ring. Uh,
Mm.
that product is still marked as resolved, so we were not successful in that lawsuit. But what we did do is buy us a nice runway. As you see, that shortage was deemed as resolved on 10/2. The deadline for actually producing it and dispensing it out of our 503B was not until 3/19. So it really bought us a good amount of time to continue producing, dispensing, and meeting the demand that is out there. And I think the demand that still exists today that might just be falling a bit short with Eli Lilly, right? Not being able to meet the absurd demand. With semaglutide, that is the most recent, as we saw. It kind of followed the same kind of timeline as tirzepatide. So as soon as the preliminary injunction actually got declined by the courts, we saw semaglutide immediately get resolved in the drug shortage. So thought that was interesting. I think Eli or Novo Nordisk saw the writing on the wall that Eli Lilly was going to have success in this case, and they said, "Well, why not? Right? Let's throw our hat in the ring. Let's, try our best to get it removed," and they were ultimately successful. So, we just recently stopped producing and dispensing semaglutide out of our 503B facility as of 5/22. Now, both products are still being dispensed today out of our 503A. So what we did was take all of the inventory and we really busted it on our end to produce just as much as possible during the time we had. All the product that we had left remaining that we didn't sell out of our 503B did get transferred over to our 503A for further distribution, but they all have compound dates that are prior to 3/19 and 5/22. So furthermore, what has changed? So 503A pharmacies production of
Hang on a second. Hang on a second. I'm so sorry. Someone's trying to get in and
you're totally
I
fine.
cannot. Hold on one second. Sorry to do this to you, but I want to make sure everyone can get in. Okay, we're back.
You're back.
Sorry,
Okay.
Hayden.
So what has changed in terms of production? Give me 1 second because you are kind of cutting the side off. So, outside of the manufacturer of Novo Nordisk and Eli Lilly, the only real way that you're going to be able to obtain semaglutide or tirzepatide is going to be through a 503A pharmacy. What is really the difference between a 503A and a 503B? 503As are actually regulated by the states. So the FDA really doesn't play a role in this. Therefore, they don't really have to abide by the FDA guidances that are published, right? As a 503B, we have to actually provide dispensing reports to the FDA and we have to adhere to all guidances published by the FDA because we get audited once every 2 years. So if we were to continue dispensing, I mean, we would be in a world of hurt, right? Now, the way that these 503As are doing it primarily, if they are producing it, they are relying on variable dosing and combo products. You might see a lot of folks out there that are offering semaglutide and B12 or, a product that you have to write the script a certain way because it has to be greater than 20% different than the dosing regimen of Eli Lilly or Novo Nordisk's Wegovy or Mounjaro or Zepbound at this point in time. I will say, just because a pharmacy can produce these products does not mean they are going to. So Olympia Pharmacy, yes, we have a 503A under our umbrella. Just because we could get away with it or could do it does not mean we are going to. Our list of product offerings are quite extensive. And we've done a very good job diversifying. We've seen a lot of pharmacies, just kind of get into it just to take advantage of GLP-1s and sort of what I'll call like a cash grab. A lot of them are solely relying on GLP-1s where we are not. We did not believe the juice was worth the squeeze um, when it comes to possible discipline that these pharmacies might face with the states aren't taking too kindly to these combination products or variable dosing. A lot of the states are viewing it as just a simple way to kind of skirt the guidance that the FDA has published. Um, and that kind of goes into the why, right? And here are some of the resources that I spoke about earlier, actually. I'm so glad I actually included them. Holy mackerel, I didn't think I did. Um, but yeah, again, 503As are able to do it because they have limited FDA oversight. If a 503A is acting as a 503B, meaning they are making batch sizes that are greater than 250 vials, meaning they're doing anticipatory compounding, which means they anticipate this volume. They aren't actually producing product based on scripts that they actually have, right? So again, neither product is actually found on that FDA bulks list. That's another reason why 503B pharmacies aren't able to produce these products. We're limited to a certain list of products that the FDA deems to be okay for pharmacies or 503B outsourcing facilities to actually produce. So if it's not on the FDA bulks list, it has to be found on the FDA drug shortage list. Those are the only two ways a 503B facility could actually produce and dispense a product out of that specific site. And again, reason why Olympia's 503A facility, we've elected not to do it is because of the possibility of state discipline. Once you get disciplined in one state, all the other states begin to follow, right? It starts adding up. And let's say we lose a license in the state of Georgia. Well, guess what? Alabama's going to jump on board. Then comes North Carolina, and it's a big snowball effect, which we don't want, right? We're fighting to gain all 50 states as is, right? We don't want to risk any of that.
Okay.
So, challenges that we are seeing today. So, those who are continuing to dispense semaglutide and tirzepatide, mainly 503As, are going to be under great scrutiny, right? State boards, they are just not very fond of it. They believe that these modalities per se do lack clinical significance. And they're really just viewing it as a way to skirt guidance. Really, I would say right after tirzepatide was removed from the FDA drug shortage list, we saw two major, I would say, pharmacies within our industry get slapped with a lawsuit directly from Eli Lilly. I believe it had to do, if I'm not mistaken, patent infringement, could be wrong there. No, it wasn't patent infringement because that's going to be the last card Eli Lilly plays actually. Because if they lose the patent infringement lawsuit, it's game over, right? I can't recall what that actual lawsuit was, but I believe it's still ongoing. These two pharmacies took a stance and they did not waver. I think they're still producing and dispensing these products today. But at the end of the day, we have also seen telemedicine practices, and those providers actually get sued as well for writing scripts for these products, which is not a very comfy spot to be in, right? I think it really sent shockwaves through the telemedicine industry, because who is to challenge, what an MD sees to be fit? Um, but that is it's ever growing, right? And always changing. And these, two huge pharma companies are just pulling cards out of their deck that I don't think anybody really saw coming. Um, I'd say the other issue with these 503As continuing to produce and dispense is the need for or huge undertaking of documentation, right? So if a pharmacy is going to dispense a product for variable dosing or a combination product because it is deemed clinically necessary, well, they're going to have the documentation to back it up. So it's going to be very thorough in the way that these pharmacies are requiring scripts to come through. It's going to put extra strain on providers as we see it. I mean, I see some scripts that we get just for our normal run-of-the-mill products, and I'll tell you, the SIGs that we see are all over the place. God bless these pharmacies and what they're having to require on their end, right? And then I've even more recently, I've heard the supply chain, these 503A pharmacies again, per USP 797 guidelines, they're limited to 250 vial batch size limits. With that in mind, I mean, with them being the only pharmacies that are really going out on a limb and still producing these products today, they aren't able to meet demand, right? Yeah, I mean, I've heard of these telemedicine practices waiting upwards of 2 weeks, a month and a half to actually get these products out to patients. So they just don't have the same infrastructure or production capabilities as a 503B does. And that's exactly what they're trying to emulate, and they just can't, right? It is what it is.
Okay.
So, what is next, right? So, with all that said, we're really just going to have to wait if, from a 503B standpoint, um, we're just going to have to wait to see what happens. There are rumors that these products might come back. I'm not too hopeful. I'm not holding my breath. But there are viable options available and seen on the drug shortage list. Liraglutide, it is not protected by a patent. So again, there isn't too much incentive to really push to get it off the national drug shortage list. Therefore, we think it's here to stay for a decent while. You never know what Novo Nordisk is going to do, because they were the individuals who produced this product originally and obtained a patent, which has since expired. We are offering two different formulas. The biggest con, I would say, in comparison to semaglutide and tirzepatide, it is a daily injection, and a lot of people are going to cringe when they hear that. I get it, but it is going to be far better than any, combination of B vitamins, amino acids, the lipotropics I even mentioned here, which are great, right? But they aren't going to hold a candle to any GLP-1, right? So while liraglutide is less effective than semaglutide, it's less effective than tirzepatide. This is going to ensure providers, pharmacies, practices are in the clear, doing everything above board, which is, in our opinion, our priority is regulatory and compliance. So that is exactly how we're operating. Everything has got to be above board, or we won't do it.
Mhm.
As I'd mentioned, lipotropics before, we saw semaglutide and tirzepatide on the drug shortage list. These products were flying off our shelves. They have, in all transparency, kind of went a little dormant on us in the light or in the, height of semaglutide and tirzepatide, but, they are dosed once weekly. It's a 1 ml IM injection. And they do a decent job. I mean, the only piece of it is I can't sit on my couch and eat everything I want and still lose weight, right? I have to follow more of a, average run-of-the-mill old school weight loss regimen, right? Where diet and exercise does need to be introduced. And by the way, if we weren't doing that with semaglutide and tirzepatide to start, those patients that are going to lose access to semaglutide and tirzepatide are likely going to gain the weight back. So it is very important that we are implementing some of these, practices of good eating, healthy eating, good exercise practices. So lipotropics are phenomenal. They're phenomenal to support or, even maintain any weight loss that a patient has seen already with these regimens. What is next? Do we have a next? We do.
Yeah.
Okay, so retatrutide. This one's very exciting. So semaglutide and tirzepatide, in my opinion, you could throw it out the window. because retatrutide is coming. It is in phase 3 trials right now, expected to receive FDA approval by the end of 2025. It is the same manufacturer as Zepbound or Mounjaro with Eli Lilly. So my bottom dollar and what I've been saying leading up to this is if they weren't able to meet the demand with tirzepatide, right? I think we're seeing upwards of 20% weight loss or something along those lines, pretty darn close. Retatrutide is going to be just unbelievable. I think people or what the studies are showing, it's like 40% what total weight loss or upwards of 40%. It is insane. So tirzepatide works on, I believe, two receptors, where retatrutide will work on four. Um, and it's supposed to be it's seriously going to blow tirzepatide and semaglutide out of the water. Now, with that in mind, right, Eli Lilly, they weren't able to meet the demand for tirzepatide. Who in their right mind believes they are going to meet the demand of this product, which is going to be far better than tirzepatide? Tirzepatide's already better than semaglutide, right? So who in their right mind believes they're going to meet the demand of both retatrutide and tirzepatide? Personal belief, right? On the record per se, right? Uh,
Off
from
the record.
me, not Olympia. Um, I don't think Eli Lilly is going to be able to meet the demand of either. I think there's a real possibility that we see both retatrutide and tirzepatide introduced to the drug shortage list again. I would say probably around Q2 into Q2 of 2026. So there is, possibilities that some of these products will come back on. If you look up retatrutide right now, you'll see a lot of, I would say, scary avenues and ways you can actually obtain it. I think Mark, our CEO, funny enough, a couple weeks ago, tried to get his hands on research purpose only retatrutide, and I think the only way he could pay for it was Bitcoin.
Oy.
Crazy, right? So with that in mind, we have obtained API. We are doing R&D on it now, and then once that is completed, we'll start doing stability studies. So let's say in 2026, retatrutide hits the national drug shortage list. We'll have already come up with formulas that we're going to offer, and we'll already have established beyond use dates that we can, slap on there, hopefully get upwards of 120, 180 days out of that product out of the gates. That's what we're hoping for. And most recently, I will say, I think I mentioned it briefly at the beginning, about every call that I've gotten on this week, just about, and into, I would say, tail end of last week with some of the biggest names that you've heard in the telemedicine space, those that you see commercials on daily, right? If you turn on TV, they are really gaining a lot of interest or really honing in on wellness and longevity. So NAD, Simorelin, glutathione, these are products that I have heard on every single call. I'm not kidding. This is where a lot of the really big players in this space are gravitating toward. They're really honing it in. We believe one company in particular who does have partnerships with Eli Lilly, has partnerships with Novo Nordisk. They are going to roll out a longevity wellness kind of line, I believe Q3 of this year. So you'll probably start seeing commercials about that late. I would say, at some point in Q3, which is holy mackerel. I'm talking about Q3 like it doesn't start next month, but does. But yeah, really exciting. I mean, NAD again, we are going to be ramping up production of that. We have moved to a liquid. That's going to allow us to move from producing like 4,000 vials a week as we do today. Week one, in preparation of week one of launch, we were producing 10,000 vials of our new liquid formula. Simorelin, we're moving toward a liquid formula ready for release probably around September. Glutathione, this has been a product that I have always loved and adored. Um, it's fantastic. Found in our Try-Immune Boost. By the way, note that if you haven't tried it, try it. It's fantastic. Try-Immune, remember the name. But again, these are products that are going to gain a ton of popularity here over, I would say, the next 2 to 3 months.
Wow. That was a lot of information. I'm gonna
Oh,
stop sharing my screen so that we can move on to questions. But that was, oh my gosh, Hayden, I never expected to learn that much. Great job. I've got a bunch of questions already from people that registered but weren't able to be here tonight. But we've got some people who are here now. Does anybody on the call at the moment have some questions for Hayden before we move on to write-ins? Okay, I'll tell you what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go ahead and start. If you've got a question, just either write it in the chat or take yourself off mute and you feel free to speak up. So let's see. So many of these questions you've already answered. All my questions you sort of
good
answered.
presentation, I guess.
Yeah, you really covered everything. Um, Yeah, I mean, the thing that I had heard so many times from different providers who are just confused about why can I order it from this pharmacy, but I can't order it from this pharmacy. And you really explained that very eloquently. But the thing you said that was kind of scary for providers is that sounds like they can be sued as well.
Yes, I don't think, and I would say the practices that we see, a part of your group and, the
Mhm.
practices you see, your PCP general practices, I don't think they are as susceptible to this. Um,
Okay.
I think the providers I'm referring to are those with some of the bigger, well-known telemedicine practices that we know of today.
Okay.
But you never know what Eli Lilly or Novo is going to do. They have two different approaches, and it's impressive to kind of sit back and watch how they are navigating this. But no, I don't think all providers are going to be, susceptible to any of these, lawsuits. But it definitely is a possibility. That's really all
Yeah.
I can
It's
speak.
not worth it. It's not worth taking that risk, especially when there are other products out there that can do similar things. And it sounds like there's some exciting things coming down the pike. Tell us a little bit more about liraglutide. So that is available now, correct?
Liraglutide is available now. We launched it as of last week.
Okay.
It's done pretty well. I think the thing that we're seeing today is that prior to the shortages, we saw a lot of patients kind of bulk up, get as much semaglutide or much tirzepatide as they possibly can, right? So with that in mind, it's slowing the amount of movement we're seeing with liraglutide, right? With us still dispensing semaglutide and tirzepatide within the guardrails of, the guidance we've seen from the FDA. Um, with that in mind, because we're still dispensing those products, we don't necessarily see a reason why a provider would ever write for liraglutide if they have sema and tirzepatide at their disposal. Now, again, we are dispensing a semaglutide and tirzepatide that were produced prior to the shortage dates and the deadlines set forth by the FDA. So if you were to obtain a product like that that was produced in compliance, distributed well within the, dates that we spoke about for those two products, you aren't going to be at risk there at all, in my opinion.
Mhm.
I think it's more so the writing for clinical significance, combo products, and variable dosing is where we see the most scrutiny. No.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. One of the questions that we had was for clinics that are just getting started. So, I mean, it's possible that there are clinics that haven't jumped on the GLP-1 bandwagon yet. Not sure how many of them there are left, but if there is a clinic watching that is in that space, what would you say is the best way for them to get started with a patient and with the products that you have? Which ones do you recommend the best?
So it depends. If they're dead set on a GLP-1,
Hmm.
I would absolutely gear toward obviously liraglutide, right?
Hmm.
Obviously. But in all reality, I mean, if I'm a provider, I would present options of, okay, you could go with Lilly Direct, which is, direct from the manufacturer, Eli Lilly. And it's actually phenomenal what 503Bs did during the time of the shortage. Um, really forced the hand of Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk, and they've actually calmed down on prices quite significantly, which is fantastic to see because if the economics was a barrier for some patients, that has been broken down quite a bit, right? So we've essentially expanded access, forced these manufacturers to expand access to patients, right, by
Hmm.
lowering price points. But I would present those options, and if they aren't necessarily, if they can't afford that, I think liraglutide is a phenomenal, affordable alternative for them. Um, and again, who knows what is to come, right?
Hmm.
I would maybe focus on diet and exercise if they aren't willing to inject daily. And you never know, semaglutide might make its way back on. I've heard some pretty gnarly stats and information that Novo's just not positioned to handle the volume right now or the demand.
Interesting. Interesting. I have a question that is not about GLP-1s, but something else that I hear a lot of providers ask about, and I never really understood or knew the right answer to give. And you mentioned that Olympia is legit script compliant. So, are you able to speak to directly to providers that are listening to you what legit script does for them? I mean, I know that there's a marketing component, but what else does legit script does do for them?
Legit, it's more of a marketing piece. It definitely
Okay.
is to get your name out there. If I'm not mistaken, Legit Scripts is sanctioned by like either Meta or Google, and it allows
It's
them.
both.
Yeah, it might be both. So it allows for marketing on those platforms. And the whole thing is, if you want to market, we need to ensure that you are, practicing safely and you're utilizing safe measures for these patients if you're going to be marketing to the masses.
Gotcha. I heard a rumor. This is literally a rumor. I don't have anything to back it up, but I heard that coming down the pike in this administration that there's going to be a law in effect that we can't market prescriptions any longer. Have you heard anything like that?
I believe that actually went into effect,
Oh, it
if I'm not
did
mistaken, for manufacturers.
for manufacturers. Okay.
For a bit like big pharma.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think I saw that. I was scrolling through LinkedIn, I think yesterday, and I saw it.
Jody,
We
quick
might have seen the
question.
same post. Hey, Tanya.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Baby sleeping in the background, making bone broth. Life is
You had
good.
a baby. Congratulations. Oh my
do I start the video here? Hang on,
God. That's
I'm gonna
so
turn this thing
cool.
around.
Married woman, now mom.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, she's beautiful. Shh, everybody, well, ask your question quietly.
Yeah, she's like a Mediterranean kid. She's got to deal with the loud Greek music in the background. She's fine. So what legit scripts? What I completely missed that part. I knew a lot of this other stuff because I have a friend who has been squawking off about the 501BA thing for a while now, and we changed our website, so we no longer have semaglutide and tirzepatide on our website. We now just say GLP1s because he was very insistent that even the smaller practices are going to be at risk by stating the wrong words on your website. So we made that adjustment. Um, but we've never marketed any sort of medical weight loss. We would love to. We're a very, very small fish in the sea. Is that something we should be considering? Do you have to pay for that? Is what's that all about?
Yeah, it's
Uh,
pricey.
yeah, you
Yeah.
unfortunately have to pay for just about everything, right? I don't. I actually think it's quite silly. I mean, I think it's a cash grab and a way to kind of gatekeep to a degree, right? Um, I mean, if
So you're
you
paying to be able to pay for marketing? Is that what I'm understanding?
You're paying for the ability to market on platforms like Meta and Google that you can write the prescription. You can market weight loss all day long, the same way you can market hormones or anything else by not making any promises or guarantees. But if you wanted to say, we sell liraglutide, you'd need legit scripts as a backup.
Okay, thank you for explaining that.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't need it.
Got it.
I mean, all the clinics I've ever worked with, we've never ever used it.
Yeah, it's more so, and to that point, and when you bring up clinics, I really do think it is more so marketed or for telemedicine practices and pharmacies, right? Vertically integrated pharmacies that do have a telemedicine wing. I think that is more so who it is geared toward.
And I think a lot of the smaller clinics, especially the ones that I know that I've, come in contact with, marketing the product isn't nearly as effective as marketing the result and the process the clinic goes through with the patient to reach that result. So by not needing to market a specific product, it's not worth the expense.
Awesome. Well, thank you for the knowledge.
You're welcome. It's so great to see your face. I don't have any other questions on my list that you didn't already answer. You were extremely thorough. I can't thank you enough for taking the time tonight to be with us. And
Absolutely.
I know that we had a lot of people sign up for this webinar, and apparently some weren't able to come. So we're going to get this out, and they'll be watching it. And
Phenomenal.
you've changed everything for them because like I said, I'm sure you hear it all the time, but I get a ton of questions from different providers just being so confused. So
Mhm.
thank you for explaining it so clearly.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, even if you were to send the one slide with the FDA bulks list and the FDA drug shortage list, that is where you will find the truth, no matter what it is. That is what 503Bs can produce. That's going to be the safest product, the safest testing measures. So I would definitely share those URLs as well. Great
Okay,
resources.
definitely will. Well, you have a fantastic evening. I can't wait to come and see the new Wesley building one of
Yeah,
these
come
days
on.
soon. I mean, you're like 10 minutes from my where I work, so
Oh, really? How about it? Yeah, come on. I'm sure Mark would love it.
we will do it someday soon. All right, thanks so
Absolutely.
much. Thanks everybody for being here. Have a great evening.
Bye bye.